everybody, Zach again at newtutorial.com, coming in and making a video with you today. This is going to be an unpopular one. I'm sure I'm going to get a lot of thumbs down, but I've done videos in the past where I get lots of thumbs down, and it doesn't bother me. So we're going to keep going. So there's a big movie out this week, and everyone's talking about it, and I'm not going to go see it. I'm not going to go see Star Wars. I want to talk about how easy it is to be desensitized to the world around you, and let's just go down this road. So, look at this guy right here. Check out this guy. Who is this guy? We all know who this guy is, right? It's the Count. The Count from Sesame Street. Most of us who grew up, most of us who are in our 30s and 40s, and maybe even younger, I mean, we recognize this guy as the Count, someone who grew up with us on PBS and taught us how. I mean, the first recollection of counting. The Count, all right? It's the Count. Did you know that the Count is a vampire? I'm just saying, pointing that out there. But all right, check out this. How many of you growing up did not know what this was? Yeah, it's Count Chocula. Everyone loves this cereal. You pour your milk on the Count Chocula flakes, and after you're eating your cereal, the milk is all chocolate milk, and you can drink the milk as chocolate milk, and everyone loves Count Chocula, right? But did you know Count Chocula is a vampire? You do know what vampires do, right? I mean, they drink blood. This is how you desensitize a nation. This is how you get people to be unable to recognize what sin is. I've talked about this before on my website, newtutorial.com. So you have these two characters who are loving characters, fun characters. It's great with kids. Kids love them. And then fast forward into the last decade or whatever, and you have this. The Twilight books. Twilight, when I left the church about 5 years ago, was so prevalent. It was so you had these book reading clubs in churches, and it's all about Twilight, and the parents were reading them, and the kids were reading them. I could not believe that people were. This is one of the things that so turned me off about the church, because the pastors wouldn't address it. Oh no, we can't address this because there's so many parents in the audience that are reading these books, or kids are reading these books, and kids are reading. But they're talking about this perversion of human beings in these romantic relationships with these vampires, who, by the way, drink blood, which is, by the way, called something wicked in Scripture, and people in church are okay with it. Folks, one of the tipping points for me leaving the church was when me and my wife were working at First Baptist Church of Arnold, one of the largest Baptist churches in the state of Missouri, if not the largest, and we were working in the nursery, working with the kids, and one of the teenagers from the youth group came in and had her teeth filed down into fangs. I mean, this wasn't by accident. Her parents paid someone because it was the whole Twilight thing. Everyone was into Twilight. Everyone was into the Twilight books, into these vampire books. And this girl had convinced her parents to pay someone, a dentist or whoever, to file down her teeth to be like fangs. Her two teeth on the side of her mouth. To be like fangs. And me and my wife, we heard this and we're like, oh my goodness. We're done. We are done. If the church want to address this wickedness, if they want, it got so bad in that stupid church because people we were so desensitized to what sin was. And, how can you blame it? Folks, this is one of the reasons I tell people, get out of the city. Get your kids out of the city. Because you're going to be so surrounded by sin that you'll forget what sin is. Count Chocula, the Count on Sesame Street. You raise your kids up to see these things and to accept them. And you as parents were raised around them. So that when stuff like Twilight comes out, romantic relationships between vampires and humans and blood drinking, that you just don't, it's okay to you. You're fine with that. It's okay. Oh, it's a nice story. My kids are reading. It's so neat that they're reading. They're learning how to read, and they're reading books. That you just. So, fast forward. Now we're at Star Wars. Star Wars is coming out, and I know people out there. I was thinking to myself, maybe I'm going to watch this. I know there's people. I have friends who want to watch this. They want to watch this movie. And they're looking forward to it. But look at the world and how ecstatic and how much of a cult this has become. How much of an icon this has become. When I was in the military, it was kind of funny. It was a joke because you could, on your dog tags, you could put any religion you want it. I mean, you just basically submitted the paperwork, and they'll put anything on there you want. I was a good Baptist, so I had Southern Baptist, on there. But there were people. I remember a guy named Lightfoot. He was one of the guys in my infantry unit, and he put Jedi Knight on there, and they printed it and gave it to him as a dog tag. Jedi Knight. This was back in the 90s, and so he, his religion was Jedi. So, but today there's a whole drudge story on there the other day about how these people are actually forming their own church, and they're coming up with theology based on light and dark and the force of good and evil and all this stuff. And they're coming up with theology, real theology on this stuff and how it really exists in the universe today. And I was just like, dude. And then I'm hearing about all these people starting to camp out weeks in advance to get theater tickets for the new movie. And I'm like, it's too much. This is crazy. And I thought to myself, am I overreacting? Am I just becoming a little crazy here? And I thought about the movies, and I'm like, no, I mean, I grew up with the movies. I saw the first movies when I was like 3. I think I went to the theater in like 1979 for like Empire Strikes Back or whatever it was. But I was old enough to remember going to see Yoda at the first time, and I was old enough to remember that. And looking back on it, and knowing my Torah now, the words that our Father gave us. Did you know that it's possible to talk to the dead? Did you know that? It's possible to talk to the dead. There's a reason why our Father says not to do it. It's because it can be done. We know that Saul, with the help of the Witch of Endor, talked to Samuel after he died. We know it's possible. And we know the Father says, do not do it. And what did Samuel do when he was called back from the dead by the Witch of Endor and Saul? He reproved them. He said, what have you done? He was angry at them. So we know the Witch of Endor did it with Saul, and it was a bad thing. We know the Father says not to do it. That should tell you that it is possible to talk to the dead. So in the Star Wars movies, Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, what do you see happening here? Do you see conversation between alive people and dead people? That's sin. That's something the Father says not to do. And now you have universities. I've done videos before on this in the past. You have entire universities that have student programs that are designed to have seances to talk to the dead. I'm not making that up. They do that. They're doing that now. There are university studies, I've linked to them on my website, where they have student programs that talk to the dead, to recall the dead, and to have conversations with them. It's possible. The Father wouldn't say not to do it if it couldn't be done. He says don't do it in his word. He calls it wicked. So, and there are other things too. The whole thing, people are using this and they're worshiping this. And I would love to see the new movie. I mean, it's probably a good story. I mean, Lucas is out of it now, and so Disney's now in control. And so, I mean, Disney is known for putting together good storylines, but Disney's also known for putting in a lot of perversion and sexuality and hidden messages inside their stuff. And most of the stuff is going to be CGI. So how are you going to know? Is your brain pulling out subliminal messages, or your kids seeing these subliminal messages that may or may not be in the movie? I'm just saying, right? I'm just saying. Would love to see the movie, but I'm not going to do it. My kids aren't going to see it. And I'm unfortunate, when we first started getting into this movement, my kid, and before the Torah, my kids saw some of the Star Wars stuff, and they really like the Star Wars stuff. They really do. And I know I have friends in my fellowship who like this movie, and, I'm not affronting you. I'm not trying to, and if you're into this, but here's the deal. I just see it as a way that the enemy has desensitized us so far that, we're not being set apart from the world anymore. We've forgotten to recognize, we have forgotten how to recognize sin when we see it. And as cool of a story as it is, and the sound effects and the graphics and the anime, all the stuff, that Star Wars encompasses, and other movies too, there's a lot of magic in this stuff, and it doesn't matter if it's good magic or white magic, if it's light magic or dark magic. Magic is bad. My Father says don't do it. My Father says don't entertain it. He says it's evil. And so I got to call it out for what it is. So I won't be seeing the new Star Wars movie. We'll leave it at that. Go home, read your Bible.